Brain actually makes a ton of your decisions before you even become aware of them. I mean, every single second, your brain is processing millions of pieces of information completely subconsciously. It's wild. Today, we're doing a deep psychological breakdown of human behavior. The goal of this explainer is super simple, but absolutely crucial. We want to help you defend your mind, your energy, and your subconscious from hidden manipulation. We're going to pull from some deep insights into power dynamics to give you back total control. Let's get right into it.
Let's start right here with a pretty obvious question. If someone walked right up to you and said, "Hey, just a heads up, I'm going to deceive and manipulate you," would you trust them? No way, right? Of course not. And that is exactly why we need to completely dismantle this myth of the obvious enemy. The most dangerous manipulators in the world, they never announce their intentions. They don't attack you head on. Instead, they slip in quietly. They build trust. Just picture a super polite new coworker. You know the type? They join the company, they're incredibly helpful, they compliment absolutely everyone, and they're always grabbing coffee with the team. Within a few months, everyone loves them. People naturally start sharing personal struggles, a little office gossip, maybe some real opinions about the boss. But here's the thing. This coworker is silently building a mental file on everyone. Then, boom, a promotion opens up, and suddenly those shared secrets are weaponized against you. Did they just become evil overnight? No. They were gathering intelligence from day one.
So to make sure you never fall into a trap like that, we've put together a 6-part survival guide. We're going to cover the manipulator's playbook, the power of silence, mastering your emotions, the validation trap, unbreakable boundaries, and finally, the art of unpredictability.
All right, starting off with part 1, the manipulator's playbook. You have to understand that true manipulators don't use blunt force. They are architects. They create this highly specific emotional environment where you eventually make choices that benefit them, all while completely believing those choices were your own idea. If we look at how this plays out over time, it's a really slow, insidious progression. Week 1 starts with perfect trust. They make you feel special. But then, as the months roll by, they subtly start distancing you from your friends. They start influencing your choices. They introduce these tiny little doses of guilt. Until one day, maybe 6 months down the line, you wake up and realize you've completely lost your independence. It's never a sudden explosion. It's honestly more like water slowly cutting through stone. You don't even notice it happening. Which brings us to a really brilliant insight from Machiavelli. He pointed out that people will often say one thing, but they will absolutely do whatever actually benefits them. Look, someone can call you their best friend 100 times, but the real test? Just watch what happens when their interests clash with yours. Who do they choose then? That's the moment that reveals their actual character, not their words.
Moving right along to section 2, the power of silence.
Treating your life like an open book is, quite frankly, incredibly dangerous. Think of life kind of like a game of chess. If you tell your opponent your next 5 moves, you're going to lose. They'll anticipate everything. Imagine 2 people sitting in a room. For an entire hour, the first person just talks constantly. They're oversharing their plans, their fears, their next career move. The second person? They just sit back and listen. By the end of that hour, the talker has literally given away all their power, their whole mental map. And the listener? They've given up absolutely nothing, but they've gained incredibly valuable intelligence.
Strategic silence is not weakness or fear. It's energy control. Think about seasoned interrogators for a second. They use silence as a weapon because they know that silence makes humans intensely uncomfortable. When you're faced with just a long, empty pause, an uncomfortable person will naturally start to over-explain, they'll overshare, and eventually they'll expose their own contradictions. Your silence is basically your shield.
Okay, let's dive into section 3, master your emotions.
So why do manipulators target your feelings instead of your logic? Well, most of us like to believe we make purely logical decisions, but psychology tells a completely different story. Emotions usually hit us first, and then our conscious brain brings in the logic later just to justify it. Manipulators know this. They use an emotional arsenal against your brain's survival system. First up is anger. They provoke you to throw you off balance, because when you're mad, you just react, you stop thinking. Next is guilt. You know, the classic, after everything I've done for you, you won't do this one tiny thing? It acts like an invisible rope tying your hands. And finally, fear. They'll invent these wild worst-case scenarios to basically force your compliance.
So how do we disarm this? It's simple. You use a 3-step mental checklist. The very next time someone provokes you, I want you to just pause. Ask yourself, okay, 1, what exactly am I feeling right now? 2, what is this feeling trying to force me to do? And 3, is this actually in my best interest? Just taking a second to pause and ask those 3 things shifts your brain out of that automatic subconscious emotional reaction and puts you right back into logical conscious control.
Which leads us perfectly into section 4, the validation trap.
Look, it's completely natural to want to be accepted. We are social creatures, after all. But when you start trying to please everyone, you develop what's basically an approval addiction. You trap yourself in this mental prison where your self-worth is entirely dictated by other people.
You find yourself saying yes just because you're terrified someone might get mad if you say no. You avoid conflict just to protect your image. And let me tell you, manipulators can spot a people pleaser from a mile away. They know for a fact that you will sacrifice your own peace just to keep them happy.
Because of this, you always have to be asking, what is their hidden agenda? You really have to watch out for that toxic colleague or that fake friend. You know, the one who flashes a massive smile at your success on the outside, but internally, your win is triggering their own deep insecurities. They might drop a subtle comment to downplay your achievement or try to share the credit for your hard work. Their end goal isn't necessarily to destroy you, it's just to elevate themselves, and they don't mind stepping on you to do it.
All right, Section 5. Build unbreakable boundaries.
You know, if you're feeling constantly exhausted at the end of the day, it might not be because you're weak. It's probably because you're giving everyone unlimited access to your mental energy. We really need to redefine what a boundary actually is. A boundary is not some selfish, rigid brick wall that isolates you from the world. It's a door, and you are the one who gets to decide who enters and who stays outside. It is literally how you protect your mental sovereignty from emotional vampires. Saying no to someone else isn't an insult. Actually, scratch that. It's often the only real way to say yes to yourself.
And this is a really critical point. Manipulators are going to test the waters first. They use a classic psychological trick called the foot in the door technique. They are absolutely not going to ask for your life savings on day one. Instead, they'll invade your time just a little bit. They'll ask for a small, kinda unreasonable favor. Or maybe they'll make a slightly disrespectful joke at your expense. They are just watching to see what you'll tolerate. If you don't resist that small crossing of the line, I guarantee you they will keep pushing and pushing until they take everything.
And finally, Section 6, the art of unpredictability. I want you to think of a predator in the jungle. If its prey takes the exact same path to the river every single day, it's going to get caught. Well, your brain works in a really similar way. It loves familiar habits because they save energy. Thanks to neuroplasticity, your brain physically wires itself to repeat comfortable patterns. But if you always fold the second someone makes you feel guilty, or you always explode the moment you're insulted, you're acting like a machine. You are totally predictable. To break this, you need controlled unpredictability. Now, that doesn't mean acting crazy or chaotic. It just means strategic flexibility. When someone completely expects you to yell, just stay utterly silent. When they expect you to cave in, hold firm. The moment you stop reacting in the exact same predictable ways, their whole mental model of you just breaks down. They literally cannot control what they can't predict.
So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with a pretty stark question to ask yourself. Whether it's tomorrow at work, hanging out with your friends, or in your relationships, are you reacting on pure, predictable instinct, or are you moving by strategy?
Because at the end of the day, your self-respect absolutely has to come from within. If it relies on other people, it's going to change constantly, like the weather. But when your validation is internal, any attempt to external control just completely shatters. So here's my challenge to you. Are you really the one in control of your mind, or are you leaving the door cracked open for someone else to secretly pull the strings? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.